What if I told you, speaking smart isn't about sounding intelligent. It's about being deeply aware of who you are when you speak. Stay with me until the end, because the final lessons will truly change how you see your voice. And your power speaking smart begins with something far more powerful than vocabulary or fluency. It begins with clarity. The truth is, most people confuse intelligence with complexity. They believe that sounding smart means using big words, long sentences, or complicated explanations. But real intelligence, the kind that commands respect and leaves a lasting impression, is rooted in how clearly you can express what you truly understand. Because when your mind is clear, your words don't need decoration. They carry their own weight. Think about the moments when you felt most confident speaking. It wasn't when you were trying to impress someone. It was when you knew what you were talking about. There was a natural flow, a calm certainty, a quiet power in your voice. That's what clarity does. It removes the noise. It allows your message to land exactly where it needs to, without confusion or distraction. And people don't just hear you in those moments, they trust you. But here's where it gets deeper. Clarity is not just about understanding a topic. It's about understanding yourself. Your thoughts, your intentions, your emotions. If your mind is cluttered with doubt, comparison, or the need for approval, your words will reflect that chaos. You might speak more, but say less. You might try harder, but connect less. Because clarity is not something you perform, it's something you cultivate within. It's the result of slowing down and asking yourself, what am I really trying to say? And why does it matter? In a world that moves fast and rewards noise, choosing clarity is an act of discipline. It requires you to pause before speaking, to filter your thoughts, to remove what is unnecessary, and focus only on what adds value. And that's not easy, because we are often conditioned to fill silence, to prove ourselves, to say more than needed. But the most impactful speakers understand this less is not weakness. Less, when it is clear, is powerful, because it respects both your voice and the listener's attention. I've seen this play out in conversations across cultures, industries, and experiences. The people who leave the strongest impression are not the ones who overwhelm you with information. They are the ones who make you feel like you understand something better than before. They simplify without diminishing. They explain without overcomplicating. And that ability doesn't come from talent alone. It comes from deep awareness, from taking the time to truly understand something before trying to express it. So if you want to speak smart, don't start with trying to sound better. Start with thinking better. Reflect more. Observe more. Ask questions until your thoughts become clear and grounded. Because when you reach that place of clarity, something shifts. Your words become intentional. Your tone becomes steady. Your presence becomes undeniable. And suddenly, you're not just speaking to be heard, you're speaking to make an impact. Fess. In the end, speaking smart is not about how much you know. It's about how clearly you can transform what you know into something meaningful for others. Because clarity is not just communication, it is confidence, connection, and quiet power all expressed through your voice. Listening is often underestimated, yet it is one of the most powerful signs of true intelligence. In a world where everyone is trying to be heard, the ability to genuinely listen sets you apart in a way that words alone never can. Speaking smart doesn't begin when you open your mouth. It begins when you choose to be fully present with someone else. Because when you listen deeply, you are not just collecting information. You are building understanding, connection, and trust. Think about how rare it is to feel truly heard. Not interrupted, not judged, not rushed, just understood. That feeling stays with you, doesn't it? It makes you respect the person in front of you without them needing to prove anything. That's the quiet power of listening. When you give someone your full attention, you are telling them, without words, you matter. And in return, when you finally speak, your words carry more weight because they are rooted in awareness, not assumption. But real listening is not just about staying silent while someone else talks. It's about being mentally and emotionally present. Too often, we listen just to respond. Our minds are already preparing the next sentence, the next argument, the next impression we want to make. And in doing that, we miss what's actually being said. Smart listening requires discipline. The discipline to pause your internal noise and allow someone else's perspective to fully exist in your space. There is a subtle intelligence in observing not just words, but everything around them. The tone, the pauses, the emotions hidden between sentences. Sometimes what people don't say is far more important than what they do. When you learn to listen at that level, your responses naturally become more thoughtful, more precise, and more impactful. You're no longer guessing. You're responding from a place of real understanding. And that is what makes your speech feel effortless yet powerful. Listening also humbles you in the best possible way. It reminds you that you don't know everything. And that's not a weakness. It's an opportunity. Every person you meet carries a different story, a different lesson, a different way of seeing the world. When you listen openly, you expand your perspective. And the more perspectives you understand, the more depth your own voice begins to carry. Because smart speaking is not about having all the answers. It's about asking better questions and learning continuously. Over time, this practice transforms the way you communicate. You become less reactive and more intentional. You stop interrupting and start connecting. You stop trying to dominate conversations and start adding value to them. And people notice. They feel respected in your presence. They trust your words more because they know those words are not rushed or ego-driven. They are shaped by genuine attention and care. As in the end, listening is not just a skill. It is a reflection of your awareness and emotional intelligence. Because when you truly listen, you don't just become a better communicator. You become someone people are naturally drawn to. Someone whose words matter. Because they are built on the foundation of understanding. A sec, before a single word leaves your lips, something far more powerful has already entered the room. Your energy. The way you carry yourself. The way you walk. The way you hold eye contact. Even the way you breathe. All of it is speaking for you. And whether you realize it or not, people are constantly reading these signals. This is why speaking smart is not just about language. It's about presence. Because long before people analyze your words, they feel you. Have you ever noticed how some people don't need to say much, yet everyone listens when they do? There's a calm authority about them. They're not rushing, not trying to prove anything, not forcing attention. And yet their presence commands it. That's not luck. That's alignment. Their inner state matches their outer expression. There is no conflict between what they feel and what they show. And that authenticity creates a kind of quiet magnetism that words alone could never achieve. On the other hand, when your energy is scattered, anxious, or uncertain, it shows. No matter how polished your words may be, you might say all the right things, but something feels off. People may not be able to explain it, but they sense the disconnect. That's because energy doesn't lie. It reveals what you're trying to hide, what you haven't resolved, what you don't yet believe about yourself. And this is where most people struggle. They focus on fixing their words instead of grounding their energy. To speak smart, you must first learn to center yourself. This means becoming aware of your internal state before stepping into any conversation. Are you calm or reactive? Confident or seeking validation? Present or distracted? These questions matter more than any sentence you prepare. Because when your mind is steady and your emotions are balanced, your words naturally become clearer, stronger, and more impactful. You're no longer chasing approval. You're expressing truth. There is also power in stillness, something we rarely appreciate in a world that celebrates constant movement and noise. Pausing before you speak, maintaining eye contact, allowing silence to exist without discomfort. These are not signs of weakness. They are signs of control. They show that you are not afraid of space, not desperate to fill every moment with sound. And ironically, it is in these quiet moments that your presence becomes even more powerful. People lean in. They pay attention. Because you are not just speaking, you are holding space. Over time, when you begin to align your energy with your words, something transformative happens. You stop overthinking every sentence. You stop second-guessing your voice. You begin to trust yourself. And that trust is felt by others. Your communication becomes effortless, not because you've mastered every word, but because you've mastered your state. And once that happens, speaking smart is no longer something you try to do. It becomes a natural extension of who you are. In the end, your words are only as powerful as the energy that carries them. Because true intelligence is not just heard, it is felt. And when your presence is grounded, authentic, and aligned, your voice doesn't just communicate, it resonates, influences, and leaves a lasting impact without needing to say too much. See, there is a quiet strength in thinking before you speak. A strength that often goes unnoticed in a world that rewards speed over substance. We are constantly encouraged to respond quickly, to have instant opinions, to fill every silence with sound. But speaking smart is not about being the fastest voice in the room. It's about being the most intentional. Because when you take a moment to think, You give your words direction, depth, and purpose. And yet, there's a delicate balance here, one that many people struggle with. On one side, there's impulsive speaking, where words are driven by emotion rather than awareness. On the other side, there's hesitation rooted in fear. The fear of being wrong, judged, or misunderstood. Both extremes disconnect you from your true voice. True intelligence lies in the space between them, where you pause, reflect, and then choose to speak with clarity and confidence. I've seen how fear can silence even the most capable individuals. People with brilliant ideas, powerful insights, and unique perspectives often hold themselves back, waiting for the perfect moment or the perfect words. But here's the truth. Perfection is an illusion that keeps you quiet. And your voice was never meant to be perfect. It was meant to be real. Because authenticity connects far more deeply than flawless delivery ever could. Thinking before you speak is not about overanalyzing every word until it loses meaning. It's about creating a moment of awareness. A moment where you ask yourself, is what I'm about to say necessary? Is it true? Is it aligned with who I want to be? That small pause can transform your communication completely. It prevents unnecessary conflict, reduces misunderstanding, and allows your words to reflect intention rather than impulse. At the same time, you must not let that pause turn into silence driven by self-doubt. Your voice deserves space in every room you enter. Not because you need to prove something, but because you have something valuable to contribute. When you hold back out of fear, you deny others the opportunity to learn from your perspective. And over time, that silence can become a habit, one that distances you from your own confidence and identity. The real transformation happens when you learn to trust yourself, when you realize that it's okay to take a moment before speaking, but it's equally important to speak. You begin to find your rhythm. You pause with purpose, not fear. You express with intention, not pressure. And gradually, your words start to reflect a deeper sense of self-awareness. They become calmer, clearer, and more impactful. Not because you force them to be, but because they come from a place of inner alignment. In the end, speaking smart is about mastering both silence and expression. It's about knowing when to pause and having the courage to speak when it matters. Because your voice doesn't need to be perfect to be powerful. It just needs to be honest, intentional, and brave enough to be heard. There is a moment in every conversation where your intelligence is truly tested. And it has nothing to do with knowledge. It's the moment when emotions rise. When something triggers you, challenges you, or makes you uncomfortable. In that moment, speaking smart is not about what you know. It's about how you control what you feel. Because emotional control is the foundation of powerful communication, and without it, even the smartest words lose their value. We all experience it, that sudden urge to react, to interrupt, to defend, to raise our voice just enough to feel heard. It's instinctive, almost automatic. But here's the truth: reacting is easy. It requires no awareness, no discipline, no thought. It's driven by impulse, not intention. And while it may give you a temporary sense of release, it often leaves behind something far more damaging. misunderstanding, regret, or broken trust. Responding, on the other hand, is a completely different level of intelligence. It requires you to pause, even when your emotions are pushing you to speak immediately. It asks you to observe what you're feeling without letting it take control. And that is not weakness. It is strength in its most refined form. Because when you respond instead of react, your words become precise, measured, and impactful. You're no longer trying to win the moment. You're shaping the outcome. Think about the people you truly respect. The ones who leave a lasting impression. They are not the loudest or the most aggressive. They are the ones who remain composed under pressure. The ones who can disagree without disrespect, who can express without losing control. Their calmness is not accidental. It's intentional. It comes from understanding that their emotions are theirs to manage, not something to project onto others. But emotional control doesn't mean suppressing what you feel. It doesn't mean becoming silent or detached. It means becoming aware. Aware of your triggers, your patterns, your reactions. When you understand what affects you, you gain the power to choose how you respond. Instead of being controlled by your emotions, you begin to guide them. And in doing so, your communication becomes more thoughtful, more respectful, and far more effective. Over time, this awareness transforms not just your conversations, but your relationships and your sense of self. You stop engaging in unnecessary arguments. You stop saying things you later regret. You start choosing your words with intention, even in difficult situations, and people notice. They trust you more. They respect your presence. Because they know that when you speak, it comes from a place of control, not chaos. As in the end, true intelligence is not measured by how quickly you speak, but by how wisely you respond. Because when you master your emotions, you master your words. And when you master your words, you shape the way the world listens to you. Ek.